Emma, you can edit out me worrying about it, but I wanna make my choice and sound definitive in it. Much like Jason, I need to choose a direction. What's good? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Newest Olympian. My name is Mike Schubert. I'm the titular Newest Olympian. I'm a grown man who never read the Percy Jackson books as a kid, but I read them as an adult because I was on a quest to determine if society had been sleeping on the series. I said yes, and I'm seeing if society has been sleeping on the Heroes of Olympus series as well. And I'm never on this quest alone. I am joined today by a very special guest, someone who is new to the podcast, but not new to the us creating things together, because you may recognize this person as the head of outreach for The Antics, an improv group in Utah that I've done multiple performances with and had a blast and a half every single time. It's McKenna Finley. McKenna, how's it going?
It's going good, Mike. How are you?
I'm great. New York Knicks are still 2026 NBA champions. Nice. And 2025 NBA Cup champions. It's good. You've caught me just about to take a sip out of my Knicks knockoff Yeti that I have only been, it's like the only drinking vessel I have used since we won, and it's all I'm drinking of until I die. So no, things are good.
You know, that's fair. You gotta write it out while you can.
I need to, because I'm going to be annoying for the rest of my life about it. I need to be the most annoying about it in 2026/2027.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, things are good. Things are great. It's 1.5 million degrees here in New York as we record this on July 1st. So that's super fun. I don't know what it's like in Utah where it's probably 1 million degrees.
It's
and
toasty.
Then also you're 3 billion feet in the air, so you can't breathe and it's too hot. Yay.
And we're on fire.
Oh, fun. Super fun.
Yep. So we've got smoke in the air on top of it being super hot and my work not having AC.
Ooh, and then I'm sure that the upcoming fireworks will certainly help with air quality.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love fireworks so much. I think we definitely use them responsibly.
Yeah, we'll see, but it's okay. We're here to talk about books and escape from the world that can be scary and stuff into a world. Let's see teenagers struggle with the scary world, and we could be like, life is so easy by comparison.
Absolutely.
We're going to be covering chapters 57 through 59 of The House of Hades, which you did say are very relevant to your current life, which I find fascinating given that they involve a boy wrangling wind horses. But we'll get into that.
That's the story of my life.
Oh, now, speaking of the story of your life, though, what is your history with the Percy Jackson / Heroes of Olympus books, since this is your first appearance on the pod?
I grew up with them, but I didn't start reading them until after I'd seen the movie. I was gifted the first 3 books by my grandmother, who loves to just buy me books, loves feeding that hyperfixation with all things literature. And when Netflix was still a DVD that you got in the mail, we got The Lightning Thief and we watched it, and I was like, I have that book. And so I started it that night and then I finished it.
Amazing.
And I did not sleep. And I remember my mom walking in to wake us up for school, and I rolled over and I was like, Mom, they did such a bad job. So that was my first experience. And then I didn't know there was more than 3 books for a good 2 years. So I just ended at the Titan's Curse and was sad.
I was going to say, that doesn't have a very definitive ending.
Nope. And then I remember figuring it out that there were more books. So I borrowed them from a friend, read them in a weekend, and then read them over and over again. And then caught up on Heroes of Olympus. I think I got left off at Mark of Athena when they were coming out.
Okay.
So that was another fun cliffhanger.
Yes.
And then they were the first things I ever ordered on Amazon, was all of the Percy Jackson books and all of the Heroes of Olympus books that were out.
That's fun. And I'm assuming that's Amazon in the era where it was mostly books and not mostly evil.
Yep. I was in a theater class. Y'all are going to hear a lot of theater references because that's what I do.
Heck yeah.
But I was in a high school theater class, and my mom had ordered the books for me on her account, and she texted me, and apparently she had changed my name to McKenna Fluffy Butt. And so she just sent me a picture on my slider phone of a package for McKenna Fluffy Butt, and I knew that I had gotten House of Hades. So yeah, that's my story. I've reread the whole thing probably 12 times.
Okay.
If not more, I love them. I love them a lot.
I mean, yeah, they're really good. This book in particular is really good. I'm enjoying this one the most out of any of the Heroes of Olympus ones by, I think, a considerable margin.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you get a little bit of this book is good because of the ones that came before it effect, but I'm really, really digging House of Hades. It's very fun. And I didn't realize, because for a while, especially when I was on tour, which is most of what I've done for this book, it's been all live shows, that has been me mainly reading the Very Legal PDF that I have for those. Whereas now that I'm back in New York, I've been doing more physical book reading. Like, I've just been throwing that book in my backpack and reading it, I kid you not, at the intermission of Broadway plays, and then also during lulls of the NBA draft, which I attended live in person. So that kind of gives the full spectrum of my jock/nerd life. But now I'm getting closer and closer, and I can physically see that I'm maybe like 80% done with the book, and I don't want it to be over. I'm glad there's another book afterwards. I hope it's just as good, because this one's really fun.
It's so good.
We're getting into the thing people can probably see and have noticed, whether it be with the episodes that have already come out or the schedule ahead if you go to thenewestlympian.com/about. But now we're getting into each chapter is a little bit shorter. These podcast episodes are covering 3 chapters or 4 chapters, and that's how you know you're getting towards the end of the book, when Rick really wants to start switching up the narrators. So stuff's getting real.
Yep.
And I think we should get into the real stuff that's there. These chapters are Jason chapters. Now, where we last left these folks, it's been a while, because the last time it wasn't a Percy Annabeth thing, we had Leo narrating, and he was doing all the Calypso stuff. So I guess the last time we've hung out with Jason, it was when he was a block of ice and Leo got yeeted off of the boat, like he got hit with Luigi's punch in Super Smash Brothers. So narrator Jason opens chapter 57 with, quote, "Jason wasn't sure what to hope for, storm or fire." And I thought this could have still been a prophecy thing, so I wrote in my notes, I think the answer is secret option 3. We've been wildly misinterpreting the prophecy. Let's hope that, we don't have to have the world become bad because of one of our friends. Let's hope it's something cool and everything's okay with Leo and everything's okay with Jason. I don't have high hopes for Jason. What? Trapdoor's intact. Narrator Jason says that he's been thinking about whether or not the Roman or the Greek aspects would be worse, as he waits for his daily meeting with the Lord of the South Wind. And this is where I wrote in my notes, oh, right. Are they captured? What's going on? Because I had forgotten exactly what was happening. Like, oh, is this a Keone thing? But we'll see. Narrator Jason mentions that they've been in, quote, the palace for 5 days, and Jason's losing faith that they will make it out. So still at this point, I was wondering, okay, it said Southwind, but are they in Quebec? Like, did they bring them back to Keone's place and now the Southwind has joined their side? I was very confused by what was going on, which I believe is the point.
Yeah.
I think the point is you open this chapter going, what the heck is happening? So then Jason mentions leaning over a balcony and breathing in hot air. So immediately after me thinking Quebec, I realized not Quebec. And narrator Jason mentions that he has gotten a tan and his hair has become platinum blonde in the sun and his skin looks like he's been wandering the desert. Speaking of desert, he describes that below him is a red sand beach, and narrator Jason says that the wind spirits told him that they are somewhere on the northern coast of Africa, but they didn't give any further detail. I have not been to the northern coast of Africa, so I was not able to clock this as any particular country at the time. I just thought it was neat and a new continent to visit.
Yep. I really liked the description of the palace itself. It sounds like my worst nightmare.
Ooh.
It sounds so overstimulating. It's hot. It's windy. You lived in Texas, you know. There's just stuff in the air all over. No matter where you go, you can't escape just flying grit. And then the wind is making noise all of the time.
Yeah.
Which I get really overstimulated really easily with sound, especially like consistent monotone sound. Oh, not a good time.
Yeah, I get that more from less the overstimulation, more I ran into this. We were touring an apartment once and it had a balcony. It was really cool. We were considering moving in, but the balcony was next to I guess, the air conditioning stuff for, I don't know if it was the whole building or part of it or whatever. So there was just this low hum that kind of always permeated into the apartment. And part of me was like, that sounds annoying. And then the other part of me was like, you'd have to delete this out of everything you ever record in your home. And it will become so frustrating to have to play the balance between enough noise cancellation to remove it, but then, you might make your voice quality sound worse. So I get it. I completely get it.
Yeah, that would make your life a whole lot harder.
Would have been super difficult. Glad we didn't move into that place. Much happier where we're at right now as I record this in the auxiliary studio. But yes, getting back to the wind and stuff, hot wind sounds terrible because when you think of wind, you usually think of a nice breeze, especially if it is already hot, then, well, okay, if it's windy, then at least maybe it's nice. But just a breeze making it somehow worse feels really bad. It gives me the vibes of the times I've been to incredibly hot places. Like, yes, Texas is hot, but I've been to Arizona in the summer. I have been to India in April, and that was just another level of heat. Yes, a dry heat, but still just like completely different. Like my hair product melting out of my hair when I walked outside, just like completely out of my element.
Yeah, not a good time. Texas is the hottest place. Well, I was in West Texas, and I had never been anywhere that windy, and I was biking with my roommate because we didn't have a car that day, and we were like, we can bike to the store, it'll be fine. And then the wind was 80 miles an hour and it was 115 and we made it a block, and then I was like, we're walking. I'm not doing this anymore.
No, that sounds horrendous.
Yeah, awful.
So the palace itself is this huge complex that is carved into sandstone cliffs, and it is designed so that the wind can just whip through it and effectively make as much noise as possible. Cool vibe if you're the wind god, less than cool vibe if you get overstimulated by wind. It reminds him of a slower pace version of Aeolus's kingdom in Colorado. And then we get a little bit more context here. Narrator Jason mentions that the Venti are either slow and lazy or very grumpy, adding that they've seemingly forgotten that the crew are guests here. So getting a little bit more of what's happening. Apparently they were welcomed at first as enemies of Boreas, but the Venti have been slacking in their efforts to help the team repair the Argo 2 the next level. Apparently, with the Argo 2 being in this wind bomb explosion, the main sail was busted, the rigging was all wrecked. Those things have been fixed. Now they're trying to fix the broken oars. But without Leo here, nobody really knows what they're doing, and certainly no one knows how to fix the engine. He's not here, Annabeth's not here. They are almost literally up a creek without a paddle?
With no paddle, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a tough situation for them to be in,
yeah.
Even with Buford, the table, and Festus, who is permanently on because of the power of love from Piper, which narrator Jason even comes out and says, this is why. I don't know how she did this with Trump speak. This doesn't make any sense. And I love when Rick calls out his own shenanigans. Even with Festus and Buford, they can't really fix this ship to the best of their ability. They really could utilize Leo right now. So they're not making a ton of progress, but given their recent activity, the ship just being together in one piece is a miracle, so Jason's not trying to get too down on their prospects. And then narrator Jason has a flashback of that Keone attack, and he shivers, which feels like a very intentional word choice from Rick. If you're thinking about the evil cold person to shiver, come on. That was no accident from Rick Riordan.
No, that was very purposeful.
So narrator Jason mentions that Piper is being really hard on herself for not preventing the wind bomb from exploding, but all of the crew is alive, and they love that she stopped Keone from turning them into ice sculptures in the headquarters in Quebec.
Again.
Yes.
Because it almost happened before, and now she's just coming back again, and Piper saved the day again.
Yeah, she's doing great. She's doing completely great.
I love Piper.
She also gets extra credit from Jason because she directed the explosion in a way that allowed the ship to take less damage. So yeah, it knocked them off course, but they're alive, and that's better than the alternative.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote in my notes here, okay, so the wind god is just going to help zoop them back. No? And kind of. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So our team tests the oars, and you get a great comedic slapsticky moment where one of them hits Hedge in the butt and it launches him into the bay, and he's screaming the whole way down into the bay, which is just fun hijinks.
How many times does Coach Hedge have to go after his hat?
Oh, that's
because
good.
I feel like he just gets yeeted and thrown around and rolling around. Does he have a little strap underneath it so that he can make sure that his hat stays on? Or is it just magically always on his head? Or is he just always running after his hat?
My thought, given Coach Hedge's personality, he's the type that wears his hat in a tactical fashion. So I think he wears it really low on the brim. He's got the back adjustable thing really tight, or it's a fitted hat and it's perfectly fitted to his head. And I think he's just always got it on nice and tight because he doesn't want it to fly off in the wind if he's running, if he starts attacking people. So I think it's more of that thing is glued to his head. The thing where whenever he takes it off, he probably has a little indent in his forehead. He definitely has a hat tan for sure, whether it's on his skin or his hair coloring or whatever it is. Whatever is going on, it is quite apparent that he wears a hat all the time. He's got some sort of vibe going on there.
Absolutely.
Jason worries that they're never going to make it to Epirus. He's thinking about how Raina should be on her way. Leo is lost. Percy and Annabeth are trying to reach the doors from the other side. He doesn't want to let all of these people down. He really wants to get to Epirus, but he's worried that they are not going to be able to get there in time. So then Nico D'Angelo appears. He's not wearing a jacket. He's got the sword that he always carries on one side kind of looped onto his pants, and then the spooky scepter that they've recently acquired on the other side. And I love that narrator Jason says, miraculously, he has not tanned.
Which, if you think about it, is crazy because Bianca and Nico were described with like olive skin. So if he's in the sun at all, he's gonna tan pretty quickly. So I'm just imagining him slathering on sunscreen to keep his pale facade as much as possible. He just goes through bottles of sunscreen.
Either that or he is just staying below deck as much as possible, avoiding all of the windows, maybe wearing long sleeves. Maybe he's got an umbrella.
Yeah, he's got a little parasol.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Just a thick black parasol.
Yep.
But as they've established in this book, his mother's Italian. So he should probably have tan skin or olive skin as described. At the very least, he should tan quite easily. And I tan quite easily. I'm a little bit Italian and then a little bit parts of Eastern Europe where it doesn't take long for me to go into, like once the sun comes out to play, I've got a tan. I've got like particular, since the most outdoor activity I'm doing in recent weeks and months has been softball, I have a little bit of like softball farmer's tan going on. So I'm trying to like wear shirts of different sleeve length so that it's not just hard cut off and stuff like that. I've been busting out the visor for some of my games to let my hair breathe. I have to take my summer precautions. But yeah, him being pale, you're right, is very funny, and it's clearly taken some amount of work. Now, Jason notices that Nico also looks quite muscular, making Jason wonder if Nico has been using the scepter to raise spirits and then spar with them. I don't know if he's doing that, but if he is, super cool. What a vibe.
So cool.
The coolest training dummies possible.
It's what so many players want to be like in D&D, but they can't quite get there. This is the vibe.
It's a great vibe. Nico asks if they've heard from the king. Jason says that his meeting keeps getting pushed back later and later each day. Nico says we got to leave soon. Jason says, look, I'm feeling that same urge. And he asks Nico, are you sensing something? Is that what's leading you to feeling this way? Nico says that Percy is close to the doors. He can feel it, and they are going to need our help if they want to survive. And narrator Jason notes immediately that he did not say Percy and Annabeth are close, and Percy and Annabeth need our help, but just Percy, which I love that Jason is cluing into this stuff. Now, importantly, though, Jason does not bring this up. He notices it, thinks about it, doesn't say it out loud. Good ally, Jason Grease. Jason says that they got to repair the ship, and Nico says, I promised to get them to the doors. I plan to make good on that promise. And Jason says, okay, yes, but you can't shadow travel with the whole crew, and you are going to need the whole crew in order for us to help Percy and Annabeth. So we got to get to the fix the ship plan solution. So then the orb on the scepter glows, and Jason has noticed that over the past couple of days, it has been syncing with Nico's mood, like a mood ring. That does worry him a little bit. But Nico, now enraged, tells Jason that he must convince the King of the South Wind to help. And he begins to say that he didn't come all this way and get embarrassed so much for nothing. And then Jason gets a little bit spooked by this, but tells Nico, look, I'm always here for you if you want to talk about what went down before. And Nico insists that Jason doesn't get it, and Jason assures him that no one on the team is going to judge him. Nico says that his whole life has been fitting out, whether that is having Hades as a dad and people not liking that he's a child of Hades, or him being from the past and then being stuck in time and then being in the future. And now this with not being a straight boy, he's just finding all these different ways to fit out and not to fit in. Mm-hmm. And Jason says, look, it's not like you have a choice. This is just who you are. And I love the subtle Born This Way by Lady Gaga.
It's softly playing in the background.
Right. It predates it, but shout out to Rick Riordan for getting that message correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really important. Like, this conversation is so important to me because it's two guys who have led vastly different lives. They both have had a lot of expectations put on them. They both have had to become leaders. They've both been to war and back. Like, they've been through it. But Jason is trying to understand what is going on, and Nico is just continually holding him at arm's length. Like, you don't understand. Everybody judges me, all of this. And I think it's a really good, visceral example of what it is to finally, like, be able to talk about something that you've been hiding for so long, but also recognizing how hard that thing has made your life, whether that is being in the closet or having something traumatic happen to you. It's so interesting to see this conversation play out in the way that it does, and Jason holding on and being like, I still want to be your friend.
Yes, I like it. I like that he's reaching out and genuinely, in a very good way, trying to bring him into the fold, assure him everything's going to be okay. It's like a better version of, I was going to make this reference, but I felt like Mike's going to make another basketball point. But what you've made makes me more confident in saying it. When I wrote in my notes the whole don't fit out and fit in, it's a very intentional thing, because when LeBron James was on the Cleveland Cavaliers in his second iteration, when Kevin Love was on the team, he made this sassy, passive-aggressive tweet where it said something to the effect of, stop trying to fit out and fit in, because it was directed at Kevin Love, because Kevin Love was this star player in his previous team, but then he came over to the Cavs and was the third best player. And there was this whole struggle of like, I'm used to being the guy, I'm not used to being a role player. And then there were rumblings that he wasn't fitting in personality wise. I don't think LeBron handled this as well as Jason Grace did, because I like that Jason is directly talking to Nico and not subtweeting his teammate, but It's along the same lines there of, when you find yourself in more of a group setting and you often bring different things to the table and you've been more of a loner before, sometimes you have to make these adjustments. So yes, whether it is the things that you're bringing up or it is something as silly as professional basketball, there's all these different things where you got to work together. And I think what makes it more effective is when the person, especially in the leadership role, like Jason is in right now, when they reach out and genuinely try to get the best out of the other people in their group, that's what's going to be the most effective. That's worked in any sort of group setting I've been in, whether it was in my engineering life or in college or in creative projects I've been on, when the person or people in the positions of power are really trying to genuinely reach out to every member of the team to make sure that everyone's on board and feeling good. That's when you're going to get the better results. So Jason proving time and time again that he's a solid leader and has good leadership instincts and just is being a nice dude is awesome. I love it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too, because Jason has never had to prove that he's trustworthy.
Oh.
I think he, from a very young age, was put into a place where you worked your way up the ranks, period. Like that's what you do in Camp Jupiter, whether you work up to leadership or you work up to whatever position you want to be in the ranks. But Nico is like, he's had prejudice against him his whole life with who his dad is, let alone everything else that he's going through. And so I think it's really interesting where they're both trying to explain and they're coming at it from such different experience levels of, like, Jason worked for everything that he has, but he's been able to succeed, whereas Nico has worked for everything that he has, but he has not always succeeded.
Right.
And I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, you definitely get more of the life just cutting Nico D'Angelo down for no good reason. Jason gets a little bit of the golden boy kind of status that Nico is not as fortunate to get.
Mm-hmm.
So Jason says, hey, this is just who you are. You got to embrace it. Nico continues to get angry. His anger grows so much so that the ground is beginning to shake, and he snarls to Jason that it's easy for the golden boy to say that. Nico didn't choose this life. And the narrator Jason says the following, quote, Jason tried to think of something to say. He wanted to be Nico's friend. He knew that was the only way to help, but Nico wasn't making it easy. So Jason kind of puts his hands up and admits, you've got a point, but he does remind Nico that he can choose how to live his life. You don't necessarily get to choose your background, but you can choose how you live out your life. And he says that trusting Jason to be his friend and to be someone who will accept him, taking that risk is better than just hiding. The floor then cracks, hissing comes out of the cracks. This aura of light shines around Nico, and then he asks, hiding? In a quiet voice. Jason prepares to grab his sword because he is getting quite intimidated, but he does not break eye contact with Nico. He doubles down, saying that yes, Nico is hiding. He hides from both Camp Jupiter and Camp Half-Blood. He's never trying to fit in out of fear of rejection. He tells him to come out of the shadows. He tells him to come out of the shadows.
The shadows.
Nico lets the tension build, and then he drops his stare, and all of these spooky effects stop. He says that he will keep his word and bring them to Epirus, and he will help them close the doors, but then he says he'll leave forever after that. And I said, okay, yeah, sure, Jan. I know there's 2 books starring you, so I don't think you're really going to buzz off forever.
Mm-hmm.
So just at this moment, the doors to the throne room shoot open, and a voice says, Lord Auster will see you now. Jason is relieved, as talking to the wind god is less stressful than conversing with Nico D'Angelo. And then the book ends chapter 57 with the following, quote, he turned to tell Nico goodbye, but Nico had disappeared, melting back into the darkness. And that's the end of chapter 57, which I have retitled Breaking Ground on a New Friendship.
Nice.
Since Nico literally breaks the ground out of anger. What have you retitled chapter 57?
I retitled it, It's Not a Phase, Jason.
I like it. I like it a lot. That's really good.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take our mid-roll break here, the House of Headlines, and we'll talk about updates of the podcast, live shows, Patreon stuff, other cool things going on, and then we'll come back to cover the final 2 chapters we're discussing today. Hello and welcome to the House of Headlines Auxiliary Shubio, and also on my phone and not my normal microphone setup edition. I'm here because Kelly's sister is in town. It's late at night. The rooms are all taken. I got to do this quickly, so doing it a little more low-key and lo-fi. Thank you for understanding. Going to keep things brief. There's not too many announcements that are different from anything that I've been saying in the recent mid-roll breaks, but the most time-pressing announcement that I've got is that we've got our live show for TNO in Brooklyn. We're doing a New York City live show on August 15th, 2026. Very excited about it. It's going to be really fun. The first half is going to be classic TNO stuff. We're going to be covering some of the very ending chapters, possibly the final chapters of the House of Hades, with special guests Paul Kayola and Sequoia Simone. And then in the second act of the show, we're going to be doing some Percy Jackson inspired improv and then audience Q&A. There might be some other fun faces and familiar guests that you know popping up in other capacities, but you can get tickets right now at thenewestolympian.com/live. That's also where you can get tickets to the live shows that we're doing in Boston on September 20th and Philly, aka Doylestown, aka Philly, on September 27th. That's thenewestolympian.com/live. I hope to see you there. The other announcement is that I can now publicly say, I've been saying this on director's commentaries, so if you are in the TNO Patreon at the God tier and above, you might already know this, but now I can publicly say that I will be at San Diego Comic-Con. I'll be there on Thursday and Friday, wearing the old monocle and top hat as a distinguished member of the press covering Percy Jackson stuff. But if you're going to be there, let me know. Reach out to me on social media. At Newest Olympian on Instagram is the one I check the most, but you can also reach out to me on the TNO Discord, Patreon, Reddit, other places that I check. If you're going to be there, let me know and we can try to bump into each other. I'll be bringing some TNO stickers and stuff. I would love to see any TNO listeners that are there. So if it works with the schedule, would be great. So let me know. hit me up. It's going to be really fun. I'll be doing press stuff. I'll be doing interviews that I will be making into audio content on the podcast and reels on social media and also YouTube shorts. So check out the Newest Olympian on Instagram, check out the Newest Olympian on YouTube, and obviously listen to the podcast. What I'll probably do is next chance I have for a bonus episode, so one of our weeks off, which I believe is going to be the first week of August, I could put up the audio from the interviews that I'm doing. Very excited about them. So stay tuned for future content about season 3. Woo! Now, I've mentioned the Patreon, so let me give a shout out to the folks who joined the Patreon most recently. Shout out to our newest God tier patron, Rincewind, and shout out to our newest demigod tier patron, Dubiously Danny. Thank you all so much for your support. May Hermes bless you that if you're trying to wrap up some work quickly before the big week ahead, you get it done. I've got a lot to do, including this podcast. Let's go! Now, after the break, at the very end of this episode, McKenna, our phenomenal guest here, is going to mention that she has an Etsy store, and the Etsy store has some Percy Jackson and Heroes of Olympus merch on it, and that you can get a discount code in the time between recording and posting this episode. McKenna did set that up, so you can get a 10% discount code off of her Etsy store, which is called Shine Theatrics, if you use the code TNOXSHINE, all caps, and you can access her store at shinetheatrics.etsy.com. So yeah, use that promo code TNOXSHINE for 10% off. And at the end of the episode, McKenna will explain all of what her Etsy store is, but there's some fun stuff there. I have some of the things. They're very cute. Now, if you're all caught up on the Newest Olympian and you're looking for some new content to consume, you're in luck because I make a whole bunch of podcasts. I think you would enjoy the podcasts that I make. And one show that I have made and I'm working more on that I think you will enjoy is Meddling Adults. I reference it in this episode at a later point after the break, but it is a charity podcast where I serve as the host and guests compete to solve mysteries from classics like Scooby-Doo and Encyclopedia Brown, and the winner earns money for a charity of their choosing. I have 3 new episodes that have been recorded and first pass edited. I just need to do the production work on them and get them up. Hopefully I will get them up in the coming weeks. But if you want to get all caught up on all of the 4+ seasons of stuff we've done, head on over to meddlingadults.com or search for Meddling Adults wherever you listen to your podcasts. Now, unless you're listening on Patreon, where you get access to ad-free episodes, you're going to hear words from a few sponsors to make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of those ads will be read by me, and others of them won't be. The ones that aren't read by me are inserted locally. So if you live in Spain, don't be surprised if you hear an ad about winning the World Cup. You did it. Congrats, Spain. You did it. Cool stuff. And what's really cool is that you won the Women's World Cup and the Men's World Cup. That's really cool. I hope that the U.S. women can dethrone you next year. So stoked for that. Once those ads are complete, we'll get back into this episode of the Newest Olympian. And we're back. We're here with chapter 58, which is called Jason. We'll, of course, retitle it. It opens with, quote, "So it was a storm day. Auster, the Roman version of the South Wind, was holding court." Apparently, the 2 previous days, Jason spoke with Notus, the Greek version. Notus is also quick to anger, but at least he's quick, unlike Auster. So we get the idea that Auster rambles on, drags things out, is a bit of a pain to deal with, maybe gives the "this could have been an email" vibe in these meetings, etc.
Absolutely.
The ceiling in here is filled with thunderstorms. There's steam in the air. The venti are made out of superheated air. They pass through the halls. Jason got a blistered up hand by accidentally having his hand pass through one of them. So vibes not super stellar here. A little creepy, a little scary, a little dangerous. Now, at the end of the throne room is a bonfire dais, and atop this dais is the throne, and that throne is made up of half fire and half water. Flames and smoke make the seat. The back is a storm cloud. The armrests are where the 2 meet. And I gotta say, this chair sounds rad as hell. I need 12.
It's so cool. It's so cool. It's the perfect D&D bad guy throne of just like you walk into the room and all of these things that should cancel each other out are working together to make the coolest chair ever.
What's funny is as the narrator, Jason, at one point goes, "Oh, no, it doesn't look really comfortable, but Auster's relaxing in it like it's a really comfy recliner." When you have a chair that cool, it's okay if it's not comfortable. This feels like chair version of high heels where, yes, gonna be uncomfortable, but look how good I look. Sometimes you have to make the sacrifice.
1000%.
Now, apparently Auster is 10 feet tall. He has a crown of steam and a beard of thunderstorm. And yes, that does include rain, which rains down on his toga. He seems unbothered by this rain. Narrator Jason says he looks like a soggy Santa, which I think is a very funny description. The book then has the following, quote, "So, the god's voice rumbled like an oncoming front. The son of Jupiter returns. Auster made it sound like Jason was late. Jason was tempted to remind the stupid wind god that he had spent hours outside every day waiting to be called, but he just bowed. And power to Jason, because I could never do this without making some sort of snide comment. Even if I said something kind and I wasn't being snarky, I was just making sure I said something to have it on the record that I had been there. There's no way I'm escaping this interaction without letting the record show that I actually have not been the one causing the waiting.
Yeah. I have so much time anxiety that like it actually stresses my husband out, poor thing, where on time for me is 10 minutes early so that I can sit in the car and wait until it's an appropriate time to go in, even if that's fashionably late, because I'm so worried about getting there on time, parking, all of that. And he's just such a happy-go-lucky guy and just loves being with people and is so excited to just be around everybody. And I wouldn't be able to not say a snarky comment at that point.
I appreciate that you have the anxiety because, as I've talked about on this podcast, I have too much time optimism where I just think I can do so many things before I have to leave. And it results in me usually being either exactly on time or a little bit late. And it's not the way to go. It's not the way to go. It is nice to be able to get to a certain situation and then chill out for a little bit. I was recently doing trivia and I got there like right as trivia was about to begin. And I kind of arrived and they did the first question. I was getting all flustered and stuff. And it was one of those things where you get like 10 questions in a round. And then at the end of the round, it was like, what was the theme of this? Because it was just like a grab bag theme. And then you were supposed to see, like, based on all the answers, what was the theme. And this was happening during the Knicks finals run. And the theme was it was all either last names or nicknames or first names of players on the Knicks. And I was still just kind of like brain scrambled from like, I just got in there. I was texting Kelly to make sure everything was okay, coordinating her plans with the baby and everything. And it was like, man, if I had shown up a little bit earlier and I had calmed myself, there's no way I would have missed this. But because I was all like, I wasn't ready. So that was a big learning moment for me of, okay, if you're going to a thing like trivia where you need to use your brain, maybe show up 10 minutes early so that you can calm down, because we were like out and about with Kelly and the baby and it was hot and I was like power walking to get there on time. Like, I wasn't in the right headspace to use my head for trivia, and I missed a Knicks trivia question. Come on, me.
Yep. No, you got to be there. You got to be there a little bit early so you can be on time.
Right. Yeah. At least for me with trivia, to me, that is like the equivalent of getting to my softball games early so that I can stretch a ton, since I am 34 now. And my main goal is to not be injured when I play softball, and I get there nice and early and I stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch. I need to take that approach to competitive brain stuff as well. Do some brain stretching, i.e. calm down and relax before you have to get right in.
Take a breath.
Yeah. Right into answering questions. Anyway, Percy Jackson. Jason asks the king if he has any news about Leo, and he says that he has no update and immediately blames Boreas and his kin, as the winds that swept Leo away certainly did not belong to Auster. And Jason informs him, yes, we already knew that, since we were there. Auster says the only reason that he took Jason and his crew in was because Boreas screwed them over, saying Boreas must be stopped, very enemy of my enemy is my friend. Jason says the best way to get back at Boreas is to get the ship out of the harbor, because I have the British PDF, so it was harbor with a U at the end before the R. And that reminds Auster of the story of Siolos, the king of Libya, who blamed Auster for the scorching winds that burned his crops. I had never heard of this tale, so I could check in with Dr. Moya. I was thinking that might be necessary, but we kind of get the answer in the next couple of lines.
Right.
Because Jason asks, well, did you do that? And then Auster admits, of course. But what did Siolos expect? Planting crops at the edge of the Sahara? The fool launched his entire fleet against me. He intended to destroy my stronghold so the south wind could never blow again. I destroyed his fleet, of course. And Jason replies, of course, because he wants to stay on his good side and keep this meeting moving along.
Jason is such a better person than I am at this point. My face subtitles are so loud.
Oh,
it's
that's a
so
really
bad.
good way to phrase it.
And I'm a teacher.
Oh, that's tricky.
I am a teacher, and sometimes my students will say either really funny things or really bad things, And most of the time, my face says something along the lines of like, well, consequences meet actions. Look how that turned out.
Mm-hmm.
Jason has to have like a face of steel because I would not be able to contain my thoughts.
Face subtitles is really good. I have never heard it referred to that way. I have definitely talked about how I have a very expressive face that gets me into trouble sometimes. Face subtitles is good. I like that a lot. I might start adopting that. I worry, not that I'm a teacher, but as a parent, the older my kid gets, the more I have to be careful about things that I say. And I will eventually get into facial expressions are going to be important. And a tough one is going to be holding back laughter for various things, whether it's my kid saying something unintentionally funny and, I don't want to encourage it, or, the meltdown is over something that's particularly funny. I've been able to hold it together thus far, but I feel like it's going to get trickier when we're getting into, like 5-year-old kind of territory.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to really be careful. We've definitely entered, my daughter is a little bit of a tape recorder, so you have to really be cautious of curse words and things like that. Shout out to this podcast being swear word free since 2021, training me. I at least have that going on. But yeah, we're really getting into, she's a little parrot at times, which is adorable. But yes, I worry about my facial expression if I'm trying to hide something. And then she could be like, well, why are you laughing, Dad? And it's like, oh no.
Yeah, there's been a few times where I've been teaching improv or anything like that, and my best friend will text me from the back face subtitles, and I'll have to just pull it together because I'm like, either somebody is just repeating what I just said in a different way, or they're like parroting something that they've heard that I don't necessarily agree with, whatever it might be, and my face is just so loud. It's a problem.
Yeah. Shout out to Kelly, and I have a good thing going on where she can shoot me a particular look and I know exactly what she is saying. Get a lot of that with Percy and Annabeth in these books as well. So that has been helpful throughout my adult life and certainly into parenthood as well. So props to Kelly keeping me in check, just like your friend kept you in
Yay,
check.
Kelly.
Anyway, Percy Jackson. So Jason replies, of course, to keep things moving along. Auster has already forgotten what their problem is. Jason says that they either need Leo here or they need to find another way to fix the ship's engine. And then Auster starts monologuing about how people call him unpredictable, but he views this as a strength. He contrasts this with his kids, who he says Jason reminds him of. Demigods and all these sorts, they are undecided. They are blown around. He asks Jason, if you could turn the windsock, which way would it blow? Which is such a funny wind way to make this sort of questioning. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Jason asks for clarification. Auster says that Jason doesn't need a navigator or Auster's permission. He should choose a direction because, quote, a wind that blows aimlessly is of use to no one.
It's such a good line.
It's pretty good. Rick's spitting in this chapter. Jason says he doesn't understand, but narrator Jason admits that he does. He starts internally going back and forth between preferring Camp Jupiter or Camp Half-Blood. He doesn't like the traditions of Camp Jupiter, nor the infighting that goes down there. But he has love for Reyna, and he knows that she needs help from him in general, but also specifically to fight against Octavian. But Camp Half-Blood has his heart. He's enjoyed his time there with Piper and Leo more than his time at Camp Jupiter. And there's also a chance of him meeting his father because the gods sometimes visit Camp Half-Blood. They never visit Camp Jupiter. And then Jason, after thinking about this, tells Auster he knows which direction he chooses, but they still need a way to fix the ship.
So this is the part that I was talking about earlier about my life being reflected in this chapter.
Okay.
So I recently made the decision in September to leave the religion that I grew up in.
Okay.
And in reading Jason's inner thoughts about what he dislikes and likes about Camp Jupiter versus what he likes about Camp Half-Blood is very similar to a lot of the reasons I left said religion, where there's a lot of safety in living in something so structured.
Yeah.
You know what the day-to-day is going to look like. You know what's expected of you, all of these things. But then you start asking questions and thinking for yourself, and all of that starts to happen. And you start to realize that you would rather follow your heart than you would rather follow your head. And so this debate, this internal debate for Jason was really poignant for what I'm going through right now, where I'm like still in the transitional phase of like, some of my family knows, some of my family doesn't know, some of my friends know, some of them don't know. And so the whole, you have to choose for yourself, like a wind that blows aimlessly is of no use to anyone, making sure that like, okay, I know what direction I want to go. That is where I'm going to go. And even though it might be scary, this is what I'm choosing for myself. So that's where this chapter became very poignant about what I'm going through in my life.
I like it. I wish you the best of luck with all of that. Not an easy decision
Thanks.
to make. And I think getting to what you're saying and getting to what Jason is saying, I think even just making the decision, even if it takes a lot of time, at least if you've made a decision, you can progress towards what that is supposed to be, even if it takes you a long time to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect prime example, my beloved 2026 NBA champion New York Knicks, when they had Leon Rose take over all of the basketball operations towards the end of the 2020 season, they at least had the direction. They had the plan of what they were going to do. They were going to try and bring in some young players and have this upward trajectory. We're going to make smart moves. We're going to take chances. We're going to do some free agent signings. We're going to make smart trades, all this kind of stuff. Even though we didn't have that success initially, you could at least see the direction they were going. They made the choice of like, this is how we were going to build the team. These are the kind of guys we're going to get on the team. These are the kind of moves we're going to make. We're not going to get bogged down in bad contracts or players who don't fit our team ethos, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, it was a 6-year process, but it worked. And it ultimately got us to the goal. So I think with this and what you're describing, you kind of got to think about what direction you want to go when you have these big crossroads. But it can be helpful just to choose what you want to do, even if it takes you a long time to get there. Mm-hmm. For me, I feel this on a less intense level sometimes with different creative projects I'm working on because, you know, I've got everything going on with TNO and it's fantastic. And I have those comfortable things of, you know, it comes out weekly. It's the main thing. I know what I got to get done. Boom, boom, boom. But at the same time, I always want to be working on something else as well, whether it's the times I have to devote to meddling adults or trying to create new things or doing other sort of side projects and stuff. I don't ever want to get just lost in the comfortable nature of like, well, you've got this thing and it's creative and it's going well and you've got the structure of it. Like it's fun every now and then to flex those different muscles and try something else new. But sometimes it can be harder because you have to, you know, take those steps to do it. You might have to use it's always hard to find the time. So you have to take these chances. Like, but there's been one thing that I have been kind of working on and just trying to like chip away at a little bit here and there. And it can be daunting of like, oh, I don't have all this time to devote to it. It's like, but yeah, if you spend like even just 30 minutes a day chipping away at it, at least you've chosen this direction of I want to do this thing. Maybe there will be a time in my life when I can devote more to it, but for now let me at least just like inch towards that progress. And that's been rewarding for me to kind of just like work on in the background as I have more other things going on in all this copious time that I have. You know, I'm just big free time boy Mike Schubert over here.
Yeah, no, I recently just got my first 8 to 5 job. And I've been a creative my whole life. And so having the structure is like, oh yeah, it's nice. And then I get home and I'm like, but I'm so tired, but I have so many things I have to work on. So free time sounds really nice. I'm sure that's around here somewhere.
We'll get there. I'll find it.
Someday.
So anyway, Percy Jackson. Jason tells Auster he knows which direction he's choosing, but they got to find a way to fix the ship. He begins to ask for help, but Auster shuts him down, saying that a son of Jupiter should know better. And Jason affirms that they will leave today. Narrator Jason says, quote, Jason felt the south winds zipping around him, whinnying in challenge like headstrong mustangs, testing his will. All week he had been waiting, hoping Auster would decide to help. For months he had worried about his obligations to Camp Jupiter, hoping his path would become clear. Now, he realized, he simply had to take what he wanted. He had to control the winds, not the other way around. So that's what Auster is getting at with the you should know better. Then Jason has this brain blast of, oh, I just kind of got to go for it. And I think it's pretty cool. My guess here that I wrote my notes was, oh, cool, he's going to use the Venti. And that is exactly what he does.
Nice.
Jason, says that the Venti can take the form of horses, so Auster should give them a team to power the Argo Knight who will lead them to Leo. Thank you for getting the close enough to Dark Knight pun.
Very
I knew
good.
I could trust
Very
you.
good.
Because it's not actually called Batman 2 The Dark Knight, so I couldn't call it Argo 2. Yeah, these are are the important things that go into my note-taking process.
Absolutely.
Auster is excited about this, but asks Jason if he will have the power to control the winds and make good on his word. And then Auster claps his hands and 4 venti appear. But these south wind venti are different than the ones we've seen thus far. They are not like Tempest. They are hot winds of fire, sand, and thunderstorms. And a hot thunderstorm sounds terrible to me. I don't think I've ever experienced that, and I never want to.
Not a good time.
Can't be fun. Auster asks Jason if he knows why these wind spirits can take the form of horses. And I wrote my notes because that's Rick's vibe. Whenever we need some sort of animal friend, it's usually horse or horse adjacent.
Rick is just a horse girl in his heart.
I love it. Shout out to him. Texas true and true. But then we learn the actual truth, and it's apparently that the wind gods take the form of horses and then sire the fastest horses. And Jason correctly says, too much information.
All I have is yikes.
Yeah. I love that this makes, I guess, Seabiscuit canonically a demigod horse.
An incredible reference.
Thank you. It's the only horse name that I know because of the Tobey Maguire movie. I don't know any other famous Kentucky Derby horses because I'm not made of money. But I do know from one of the funny YouTube videos that there was a horse once called Hoof Hearted, and that would cause the race person to go Hoof Hearted, Hoof Hearted, Hoof Hearted, which is pretty
incredible.
Good. And then I received as a gift from TNO listeners at a live show I did in New Zealand, the Wonky Donkey Compendium, like the 4-book compilation, which I didn't realize were New Zealand books. I've seen them in the States as well. And one of them is basically the Wonky Donkey getting his kid to say Hoof Hearted. And I was like, I know this joke because of the whatever horse race that was, Kentucky Derby or otherwise. I also don't know all of the horse races. There's the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, there's the Triple Crown, but I couldn't name all 3 races.
No idea.
I don't own any floppy hats, so I'm out on horse racing.
Yeah, the only floppy hats I've ever had access to were in a costume shop. So
Sure. Yeah. I'm not made of oil money, and I don't gamble. So out on the Kentucky Derby. Look, maybe I have a misread on the Kentucky Derby. That is my stereotypical view on it, is that it's people with too much money that love to, or people that gamble. But look, feel free to email me if you're, I don't know, from Kentucky and the Kentucky Derby's cooler. I don't know. Let me know. I'm down to learn more about the Kentucky Derby. Unless it sucks, then I don't want to learn anything.
Right.
Anyway, Percy Jackson. So Auster says that mortals sometimes speak the truth when they say this horse runs like the wind, and that's very funny. Well done, Rick Riordan. That's great. So the Venti are also their children. I don't need to get into the specifics. I'm not worried about it. Just, we're going to do more Greek mythology waves hands. Shout out to it. So Jason asks, oh, like Tempest? And Auster says, well, that is a spawn of Boreas. But he is impressed that Jason was able to tame him. He says that if Jason can control these Venti, they will get the ship out of the dock, no problem. So Jason looks at these rambunctious horses and thinks that he needs a vision, he needs a purpose. And then he envisions Notus, the Greek version of Auster. And that changes the Venti all to their Greek form. And then the king commends Jason, and Jason sees, oh, he has also switched aspects. So then he asks Jason, what are you waiting for? And then Jason faces the horses, now unafraid because they are less scary as their Greek versions. And then he reaches out his hand, and then these wind lassos emit and tie around the horses' neck, head, whatever a lasso does. It like makes like head harness. I'm so out on horses. I know nothing about horses. But then Jason is holding these wind ropes. He describes them as being like tightly wound tornadoes, which I think is really cool. He's holding these, and he's got all 4 horses with these wind reins. Very cool.
So cool.
Such a fun vibe. Notus commends him again, saying that he is the son of Jupiter, but he's chosen his own path like all of the great demigods before him. Quote, you cannot control your parentage, but you can choose your legacy. And I'm surprised Jason didn't go, I was just saying that to Nico. You get it.
Excellent. It's an excellent line.
It's good. It's really good.
I think it's really cool. One of my favorite things about this book is we get to see the demigods really taking on what does it mean to be a child of so-and-so? What do I want my legacy to be? I think that's one of the coolest things, because the biggest example that is popping in my head is Frank when Ares and Mars are like shouting in his head and he's like, be quiet. And they're quiet for a minute. Like we get to see these kids that we've kind of grown up with actually take charge of things that are greater than them and the existential circumstances and actually like point it the way that they need it to be going so that they can build their legacy. It's so cool.
Yeah, I really like it. I think it's fun, especially for some of the godly parents that we had particular notions and misconceptions of. You just think, oh, Aphrodite campers or, you know, Pink doing their hair, doing their makeup. It's fun for Piper to kind of flip that script. And similarly, like you're saying with Mars/Ares, you know, it's very different from Clarice and her cabin mates we saw in the first 5 books. So yes, it's fun to see the new directions. Notice tells Jason to take the team to Malta, and my first thought was Malta, New York, which is always the thing I first think of. I know Malta is also a country, but the first time I had ever heard of Malta, either of them, was Malta, New York, because when I was an engineer, I was in this rotational program where you would move every 6 months for your first 2 years doing different things at the company before you commit to your long-term thing. And halfway through one rotation, you would put in your preferences for where your next one would be. So when I was first getting relocated, I was looking up all the different options. And the way that I worked, since I was an engineer who did not want to be an engineer, I looked purely at the locations. So when I was going for my first one, I was like, there's one in the Bay Area. That's cool. There's one near Seattle. That's cool. And then I saw New York. And the only thing in all of New York State was in Malta, New York. And I was like, how far away is Malta, New York from New York City? Maybe I could go and then like commute into the city and stuff. It is 8 hours by car north. It is very much New York upstate. It is not near the city. So I did not end up ranking that one. But if it had been closer, I would have considered it.
Fair enough.
But yeah, because of that, I've always known like, oh, Malta. Yeah. Like I learned about Malta, New York before I knew the country. Not a big geography buff, Mike Schubert. I didn't learn the full Animaniacs song. And I'm learning about more countries with the World Cup going on. Go Cape Verde. And I feel like a snooty little snoot because I know that it's pronounced Cape Verde and not Cape Verde, only because I follow someone on Blue Sky who had this post that was saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe the announcers are mispronouncing Cape Verde. Shouldn't your job of announcing be know one of the 2 teams that are currently playing? And because of that knowledge, every time someone talks about Cape Verde, even though I learned about them last week, I'm like, you don't know anything.
I feel like, you know what? You gotta ride that out as long as you can, because you're always gonna mess up on something. So you might as well just rein it in when you know something.
Yeah. You got to take your wins where you can get them, folks. Take them.
Absolutely.
Take them. So Jason, in response to Malta, goes, Malta? And the narrator Jason says, quote, he knew nothing about Malta except for some vague story about a Maltese falcon. Were malts invented there? Love it, Jason. Never change. Notice says that when he arrives in Valletta, Valletta, he will no longer need the horses. Jason asks, does that mean that's where we're going to find Leo? And then the book ends the chapter with the following quote: the god shimmered, slowly fading into waves of heat. Your destiny grows clearer, Jason Grace. When the choice comes again, storm or fire, remember me and do not despair. Classic non-answer from the gods. And then it ends with the doors of the throne room burst open, the horses, smelling freedom, bolted for the exit. And that ends chapter 58, which I have retitled, I Changed the Channel because of Channeling the Winds.
Nice.
What have you retitled chapter 58?
I have 2.
Okay.
Because I couldn't decide. Jason venties his feelings.
Oh, that's very good.
Thank you. Or Camp Half-Blood, I choose you.
I love it. Alrighty, let's conclude chapter 59, which is quite short, so we can go through it quite quickly. It's called Jason. We'll retitle it. It opens with, quote, at 16, most kids would stress about parallel parking tests, getting a driver's license, and affording a car. Jason stressed about controlling a team of fiery horses with wind ropes. And this is the most Disney Channel original movie line in this book series. I'm surprised there wasn't a freeze frame and it didn't start with, yup, that's me. You must be wondering how I got here.
It's so good.
It's great. Also, parallel parking, I think, is like overrated in terms of how scary it is. It's not that hard.
It's not that hard, but it was so scary.
I think it's like the society thing where we've all collectively decided that it's really hard and scary, and it's really not. I think people psych themselves out about it. I might be skewed just because the first like 4 or 5 places I lived, I had to parallel park. Like I never had a parking garage or an actual driveway or something.
Mhm.
It was all like street parking for the beginning of my adult life. So I just did so much of it. But I think everybody like don't fear it as much as it is. Once you know, you just got to do the thing where you get your side mirror to line up with the ending of the front door of the car, and then you just turn it all the way towards the curb, and then once you are, far enough in that way, you just cut it back. Like, I don't know. I think everybody's psyching themselves out about it. I am letting you know you can do this. I believe in you. It's not as hard as people make it seem.
Absolutely. That doesn't stop me, even though I do it all of the time for work now because I drive cars for a car shop. And it doesn't stop me from every time I successfully parallel park, I text my mom, I did it, I parallel parked. Like it's the first time, even though I've been driving forever.
I still commend celebrating it because even though it is like clockwork for me, I always let out a whenever I get one in like nice and smooth. If I don't have to go out and back in, like, take your wins. But also, I believe in you. You can do it.
You can do it.
It's not that hard. I think it's overhyped in its difficulty. And don't psych yourself out. You got this. You got this. Jason ensures that the crew is safely below deck and then lashes the venti to the prow of the Argo 2 back to the hood. We all know what the prow is of the boat, so we don't have to discuss that further because we're all boat people.
No.
Festus doesn't love this. So when it said that, I was like, oh, I guess that's the front. So Jason then straddles Festus and yells, "Giddy up," which I think is fantastic. Let's go. All-American boy Jason Grace. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. The venti zoom, and though they are not as fast as Arion, they give off more heat, and they leave behind this steam that makes it hard for Jason to see. And throughout the flight, Jason has to just put all of his effort into holding the reins and stopping the horses from breaking free, like they're Troy and Gabriella in High School Musical. He orders them to go straight to Malta, and when they arrive, Jason is gassed. He's covered in sweat, and it, to him, felt like holding a barbell in front of him. And for all the nerds in the chat, the barbell is the long bar that you do squats and chest press with at the gym, and that's 45 pounds, which you can convert to kilograms. It's like, I don't know, divided by 2.2 or whatever. So 20-ish kilograms, 22 kilograms.
I am not a math person. I don't know. I went into theater for a reason.
45 pounds is 20.4 kilograms. So for all the Europeans in the chat, there you go. I guess for all the non-Americans, the non-American nerds. Yeah. But yeah, for me, I can exactly imagine, and that's hard. A barbell, that's tough. That's a long. I mean, we learned that this flight was like 6 hours long. That's intense.
I've never lifted a barbell, but I have held up a scenic flat that was falling over for the length of a dance number. So
see?
I know exactly what that feels like.
We've been there. This is my ever continuing quest. That nerd stuff and jock stuff is just the same. We've all been through trials and tribulations. Whether you're holding something for the gains or you're holding something for the plays, it's there.
I need that on a t-shirt.
Anyway, Percy Jackson. So Jason hopes that this location is right because he just can't hold on to these horses any longer. So he releases them. They disperse into the wind. And then he leans against Festus, who gives him a chin hug, which I think is very cute and adorable.
So cute.
Piper comes over to Jason and is concerned because his arms are covered in blisters. Jason hadn't noticed. So Piper gives him some ambrosia, and it tastes like brownies from his favorite bakery in New Rome, but they taste more bitter than usual. Like it knows he's turning his back on New Rome. Like it's no longer the taste of home. And that's the full confirmation. We were getting the vibe, but he is locked in. The brownies do not lie.
The brownies always know.
Mm-hmm. Jason asks how long this trip was. Piper says 6 hours. He thinks, okay, that must explain my exhaustion. He asks how the others are doing. Piper says, good. They're just kind of sick of being below deck, which this sort of thing with them complaining about this makes me think of when people now talk to me about flights being too long and stuff, because I've always been chill with long flights. I get that I'm blessed for this because I can very easily sleep on a plane. I always have some sort of podcasting work to do. I can be very productive on a plane. I don't mind a long flight, watch a movie. Like I'm real good on a plane. I think it's funny now when people, for example, like we did this trip to Australia with the little one, and people are like, oh my gosh, like it's such a, or I guess when people just talk, like when I talk about going to Australia, people are like, oh, it's such a long flight. And now it's like, yeah, all you gotta, and you know, I'm talking to my friends that are like kids, like, what, a long flight by yourself? A long flight sitting next to your loved one? A long flight where, oh, what are you going to do? Sit down and watch movies for 18 hours? Oh, this flight's like 15 hours. Like, oh no, you're going to have to watch 7 movies? Oh my God, the humanity. Like, there's so much more effort that goes into flying with a kid or children. Mm-hmm. We make it work. Kelly's an absolute champ. We try to tag team as much as we can. And we still do it because we want to travel. And sometimes it's hard, but you just got to be strategic and all of that. But when people talk about long flights and stuff, it's like, yo, once you have to do flight with kid, just flight alone. Oh, a flight alone. Oh. When we were in Australia, one of the shows I did was just in Perth. And because I just like went up, did the show and then flew back on a red eye, I didn't fly with Kelly. And the baby was just like, Mike, you go and come back. And then some people are like, oh, Mike, you're going to do this long flight. You're going to, you know, do 5-hour flight late at night and then a red eye the next day, blah, blah, blah. And I would always have to be like, Kelly has the harder end of this stick. Right. Like watching the baby for a full day, way harder than me taking a couple of flights. Like, oh no, what am I going to do? Sleep? Ah.
Gonna watch the extended series of Lord of the Rings? Oh no.
Oh no. So Jason being up here, having to hold a barbell for 6 hours, and the other people, oh, we're cooped up in our cabins. Oh, your cabins where Leo put magical TVs in them, right, which are the same things as the magical TVs in the headrests in front of you. There's infinite movies. Just watch the movie.
I will say, as somebody with ADHD, being in a small space where I have to be, it doesn't matter what entertainments there are. My brain wants to go anywhere else.
Okay.
And 6 hours cooped up in a place, like even with like, I don't know how to explain it, but like, you know, when you have a craving for food and you know where you can get that food and you could go get it, but like the place is closed. Imagine that, but like your brain is trying to force your body to do something. And you're like, I know if I just go outside, I can look for dolphins or whatever hyperfixation has captured your imagination. But like, I have so many projects around me and I sat down to focus on this one stupid task and my brain is like, do anything else. Okay. So I kind of empathize where it's like, locking up a bunch of neurodivergent kids in a small space. As a theater teacher, I understand that they cannot sit still no matter how many activities you give them.
That's valid. That's valid. I appreciate the neurodivergent perspective here. That's a good point. Because, yeah, even though I'm claustrophobic, I don't find planes claustrophobic. But I can understand the thing of I'm in the plane. Now I just have the unquenchable thirst to walk down a long hallway. Just be in a field, please. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Okay.
I would like to frolic now.
I stand corrected of why some people might not enjoy a long flight, but there's other pros. And there's
absolutely
infinite movies. Can I put you on infinite movies? Potentially free snacks, depending on what airline. Anyway, Percy Jackson. So Jason asks Piper for a minute to kind of gather himself and put himself together before bringing the crew back above deck. Narrator Jason says, quote, Piper leaned next to him in her green tank top, her beige shorts, and her hiking boots. She looked like she was ready to climb a mountain and then fight an army at the top. Her dagger was strapped to her belt. Her cornucopia was slung over one shoulder. She'd taken to wearing the jagged bronze sword she recovered from Zethi's the Boread, which was only slightly less intimidating than an assault rifle. Super fun vibe. Love this look. Great fit. Mm-hmm. Jason has noticed that Piper has been doing lots of sword fighting training with Hazel. He thinks that she's probably being a little too hard on herself for not being a fighter, but he does get this because every one of the 7 is too hard on themselves all the time.
Always.
She can tell that he's staring and worrying about her, so she assures him that she's all right and everybody's all right, and then she goes up and kisses him, and Jason stares into her eyes, which he likens to the northern lights because of their changing and moving colors. And Jason says he's lucky to have her, and she says, yeah, you are, and then asks, okay, how do we dock this thing? Which, love this from Piper. So Jason looks out on the water, and they are a half a mile away from Malta, and he's not sure, okay, do we try to get the engine going? Do we do the sails? But Festus was listening in, and Festus then shoots out a bunch of fire, and the ship's engine starts springing to life. Jason, as the narrator says, quote, "It sounded like a massive bike with a busted chain, but they lurched forward. Slowly, the Argo II headed towards the shore." So Piper calls Festus a good dragon and pats his neck, and then his eyes light up like he's really happy. And Jason says to Piper that it seems like Festus is just different. He's in a better mood. He seems more alive. And Piper says that this is the way he should be. Quote, "I guess once in a while, we all need a wake-up call from somebody who loves us." And the narrator, Jason, rolls with this. Quote, "Standing next to her, Jason felt so good. He could almost imagine their future together at Camp Half-Blood once the war was over, assuming they lived." And that was like, oh, no. No. Because I'm worried about my boy. I'm really, really worried about him. So for that to be in there, I was like, Rick, do you know it? Rick, have you made a decision? Rick. But he says, assuming they lived, assuming there was still a camp left to return to. And then that's when narrator Jason thinks about what Notice had said, quote, "When the choice comes again, storm or fire, remember me and do not despair." So Jason is filled with dread the closer that they get to Greece, which I totally get as someone who can sometimes dread upcoming things. And he's growing more and more worried as they get closer and closer to Greece. And he's now starting to think that Piper is probably right about the storm or fire line, that it's going to be one of them. It's going to be Jason or Leo, and one of them's not going to come back from the voyage alive. Not liking this. I would love for those boys to both come back alive, but I don't think it's going to happen. Now, Jason, as the narrator, hopes that he's wrong. He hopes that they can both come out of this alive, but he wants to be prepared if that doesn't happen. He wants to protect his friends. He wants to stop Gia, whatever it takes. He thinks of that resounding line of "do not despair." And this just is it's really starting to feel like Rick is setting this up, especially because it's a Jason narrated thing. I feel like it's going to be Jason out of the two. So I'm really worried. I'm really worried that Rick is trying to begin to soften the blow. This is kind of the thing that I have been able to do with my career of reading kids' books, is that I can kind of read between the lines. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, how come Mike guesses stuff right? Does he cheat?" Which I always think is so funny when people think I cheat. I don't get any points for getting things right.
You cheat on your own life. What?
I don't gain anything. If anything, it's better when I get stuff wildly wrong, because then I turn it into merch. So I'm financially incentivized to be wrong. But I think it's just because, one, I read these books and then I sit with, it takes me months to read them, as opposed to you reading them in one sitting. Mm-hmm. I get to marinate and think. And then also I kind of am looking at the formulas, and this feels like the softening of the blow. So I'm worried.
That's a lot of big feelings, Mike.
Thank you. Good job. Your face subtitles not on. That was great.
I'm working so hard, y'all.
You're rocking it. You're doing great. You're doing great. And there's only 2 paragraphs left, so you can hang up this call and then just go with whatever the truth is. Anyway, he's worried, but he's thinking, no matter what, I got to save my friends, which I think is great. So then they get closer and closer to Malta, and he can see the docks. He sees the rocky shoreline. He sees these fortress-like walls that are about 60 feet tall, which is 6 basketball hoops. And then above that, there's this medieval-looking city. There's church spires and domes and all of these buildings crammed together, and they have this golden stone. And Jason just thinks it looks like this city covers every single inch of the island. And he starts looking at the boats in the harbor, and he sees that about 100 yards ahead, at the longest dock in the harbor, there's a makeshift raft. And once makeshift raft was there, I was thinking, oh, Leo, he's here. Oh my goodness, we're doing it. A makeshift raft with a simple mast and a square canvas sail. And then it says, quote, on the back, the rudder was wired to some sort of machine. Even from this distance, Jason could see the glint of celestial bronze. And then the book ends the chapter with the following. Quote, Jason grinned. Only one demigod would make a boat like that, and he'd moored it as far out in the harbor as possible where the Argo II couldn't fail to spot it. Get the others, Jason told Piper. Leo is here. Which is so good. What a triumphant end.
There's a sick guitar riff after he says that.
Oh, for sure. Definitely
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just a great little stinger. That's the end of chapter 59. What have you retitled chapter 59?
Oh gosh. 16 going on 60.
So that's so good.
Thank you.
That is
Thank you.
so good because of the Disney Channel original movie vibes. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. I like
Thank
it.
you.
I have retitled chapter 59 Lost and Found because he gets lost in Piper's eyes and then he finds Leo.
Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you. That's the end of chapter 59. That's the end of this episode. McKenna, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it. Of course. Listeners, thanks so much for listening. But McKenna, in the meantime, if the listeners want to find you doing stuff, where can they find you doing stuff?
You can find me at Shine Theatrics, which is my Etsy store where we have some exciting Greek mythology things coming.
Yeah. We should be working on stuff together, which will be cool.
Mm-hmm. I have a new collection coming up for Camp Jupiter. I already have a Camp Half-Blood collection, so I'm making Roman versions of all of the Camp Half-Blood stuff, which is very exciting. And then you can follow the Antics at the Antics Comedy Improv on all of the platforms. We do funny videos and we live stream all of our shows for free on YouTube. So that is 7:30 on Fridays, Mountain Standard Time. So that's where you can find me.
Yeah, and if you go back into the history, you can see me at at least 2 of those shows up on the YouTube. Shout out to the most recent one, the holiday special. Was a blast. I got to be in a Hallmark movie with you all.
Fun.
It was a delight. An improvised Hallmark Christmas movie. It was so much fun. But yes, if McKenna and I have gotten our stuff together and we figure out some sort of Etsy plan thing with her shop, that would be probably in the mid-roll break. So if you skipped it, I forgive you, but go back and listen because you might have a cool coupon code you can utilize. But anyway, McKenna, thank you so much for joining. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, when we see what's up with Leo and how his raft ride went, until then, I'll see you later. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Newest Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Emma Nelsen, and the music is by Bettina Campamanas and Brandon Grugel. If you just cannot get enough of the show, there's a couple of different things that you can do. First off, you can find us on social media. We're at Newest Olympian on Instagram and other places, but Instagram's where we're most active. You can also support the show on Patreon. TheNewestOlympian.com/Patreon is where you get access to bonus episodes, director's commentaries, behind-the-scenes looks in the pod, as well as our Discord. It's a phenomenal community with lots of wonderful TNO listeners. You can get access to that. The TNO Patreon is also where you can get live show replays and other digital goodies. But you can also go to thenewestolympian.com/merch to rep the show with some physical and digital merch as well. Speaking of the Patreon, let's give a shout out to our producer level patrons in the Olympic court level of the Patreon. So shout out to Kelsey Gillespie, Vicky Garcia, Frida, Megan Moon, Polly Burge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sam Reeby, Mrs. O'Leary, Milo Kim, Sandkoff, Rayla Matthews, Sky Mallory, Mick Walters, Grace, Bradimus Prime, Skylar Sisters, Scott Sheldon, Ann M. Thayer Cohen, Bella, Percy Jackson, Kit Kat Crumbs, Andrea, not Andrea, Terry Rothfuzz, Certified Ghost King's emotional support friend, Lee Hartley, Marco Redhouse, and Raccoon Moon 149. If you want to support the show in a non-monetary way, word of mouth is huge, goes a long way for podcast growth. So you could talk about the show with someone directly, you could post about it on social media, you could leave us a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using. All these things really do help. I appreciate anyone who has done it in the past or will do it in the future. But I'm just so thankful that you tuned into this episode, and I hope you tune into our next episode, where we'll be joined by TNO's very own, our new editor, Emma Nelsen, to break down chapters 60 through 63 of The House of Hades. But until then, I'll see you later. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's me, ASMR Mike. Today's ASMR Mike segment is actually a guest ASMR Mike segment. It's audio sent in by one of our lovely patrons, Fran, aka Fran Lost in Hominem. So, ASMR Fran, take it away. Thank you so much for listening.